Okay, I said I got a big mouth, so I don't need the microphone. I don't need the mic. I got a big enough mouth. Okay. Me and Carla are going to present to you some of our family history. So as you guys know, this is our first reunion for the descendants of Charles and Elizabeth Scotton. There are literally 4 living generations, but this presentation goes back 8 generations. So as you can see, Big C, Grandma, Uncle Charles, Mama, and Mama.
Yeah, because we can't see.
Okay. Scotton family history. So we're going to cover the origin of the name Scotton. The name Scotton, S-C-O-T-T-O-N or S-C-O-T-T-E-N, is a rather, what's that? Antiquarish name which originated in Lincolnshire Parish of England. There are 2 townships in York County named Scotton. One parish in Catterick in the northern section of England is named Scotton. Another section in the parish of Farnham in the western section of England is also named Scotton. A post office in England is named Scotton. Robert D. Scotton and John D. Scotton lived in England as early as 1273. In 1663, a faculty office was named Scotton in honor of Edward Scotton and Margaret Arthur Scotton. The Lincolnshire parish seems to be the chief parent of the name Scotton, S-C-O-T-T-O-N / S-C-O-T-T-E-N, because so many Scottons live there. Our research showed 7 different spellings for the name Scotton, S-C-O-T-T-O-N / S-C-O-T-T-E-N. So at the bottom, you guys can take notes of the different spellings. And it says, according to the Scotton United Facebook page, it's a group which requires that you either have the last name of Scotton or you are a descendant or a Scotton ancestor. So there are obviously many Scottons around the world. We are in Italy, Brazil, United States, of course, England, and France. And there are also Scottons located in Australia, Canada, Argentina, Switzerland, Scotland, and Ireland.
Okay, when I was going back to look for the history, Faye gave me a book that was the 19th anniversary for the Scotton anniversary in 1997. So some of the information I got from that, some of the information I got from Ancestry.com, some I got from interviews because I interviewed Mama about some of the stuff with Granddaddy. But with this, as it says, it was said that there were 10 Scotton brothers that migrated from Scotland to the United States. 2 of the brothers, Jacob and Hayes, were plantation owners. And according to the 1860 Randolph County slave schedule, which is what this is right here, it shows that Jacob, when they came in 1860, Jacob Scotton, who was the owner, right here it only lists their ages. That there was a male that was 53, 13, 10, 14, and then there were 3 females, ages 36, 15, and 2. The slaves were George, 55, Anna, 36, and their 5 children. George Scotton was Granddaddy's great-grandfather. So they were the Scottons that came from from Scotland to the United States. As many of you know, as far as last names, slaves only had one name. You were given the last name of your owner. George and his family gained their freedom at the Emancipation Proclamation in January of 1863. The proclamation declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforth shall be freed. And so this is where the Scotton dynasty starts and begins. You'll do that. You do it.
Okay. So George and Anna were slaves born in the early 1800s in the parish of Lincolnshire and Scotland, Scotland. George was Charles Manuel's great-grandfather and our great-great-grandfather. George and Anna had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. Their third child was Taylor, who was Charles Manuel's grandfather and our great-great-grandfather. Taylor married Eliza Jane Fields, and they had 10 children. Their 8th child was George Manuel, who was Charles Manuel's father and our great-grandfather. George Manuel married Patti K. Austin, and they had 13 children. Their 10th child was Charles Manuel, who is our grandfather and our parents' father.
And for grandmother's side, I was able to go back to her great-grandparents. So Richard Horton and Helen Pace were Grandma Elizabeth's great-grandparents and our great-great-grandparents. Mary Horton was Elizabeth Scotton's grandmother, our great-great-grandmother. Aline and Leroy Johnson was Elizabeth's parents and our great-grandparents. They were from Dillon, South Carolina, and Elizabeth had one sister. Her name is Mary. This right here is just a picture of the family tree for George and Anna J. And it just shows them and their kids. And these were the ones that originally came, that were the slaves that came to the States.
Okay. So George was born in Scotland in 1804, and he was a slave. Anna J was born in Scotland in 1816. She was also a slave. George and Anna J were brought to the United States in 1860 by their owner, Jacob Scotton, who was a plantation owner. George and Anna J were married on August 12, 1866 in Randolph County. George was a farmer and Anna was a housewife.
And the picture is actually their marriage records. So it's like, I think like the 5th or 6th one down, but you'll see it just has both of their names, the date they were married, the year they were married, and which page it actually is in the book. But this one they have when they were married here. A lot of you may not know, but slaves were not allowed to get married. They could have, because when they came, they were 55 and 36. So they already had their family. But legally being married in the States, it was in 1866. This is actually just the census records in 1870, and it's showing their names, and it is actually showing George and Anna's names. It's showing their ages, and it's showing what they did. He was a farmer, she was a housekeeper. The kids were either listed in school or working on a farm at that time. And it's the other one is just one in 1872, and it's just telling you basically the same information that's over here, so you can see it a little bit better. Let me get that. Okay, this is a family tree for Taylor and Eliza Jane, which was Granddaddy's grandparents. And this is their picture with all of their children, and George Manuel was Granddaddy's father. So he's down on the very bottom, from 1886 to 1963. I don't know if y'all realize it, but we had a lot of family members that it was great to be able to go back to the 1800s and trace our family back that far. Not just that far, but for a family that came over that were slaves. A lot of people can't trace their family back. And I'm sure ours go back further. This is just as far as we were able to go. Your turn.
Taylor was born in 1851 in Scotland. His father, George, was 47, and his mother, Anna J, was 35. He was brought to the United States in 1860, and he was 10 years old with his family. His occupation was listed as a farm worker. Eliza Jane Fields was born August 1953 in North Carolina to Martha Langley, age 23. She was listed as a mulatto. Taylor and Eliza Jane were married in 1872. Taylor was 21 years old and Eliza was 19. Taylor and Eliza Jane had 10 children. Taylor died in 1903 at the age of 52 in Liberty, North Carolina. Eliza Jane died June 13, 1930 at the age of 76 in Liberty, North Carolina.
And these are pictures of Eliza Jane, who is on the left, and her mother. And this was granddaddy's grandparent, and then great grand, because that was her mother. And Eliza Jane was listed, like I said, as a mulatto. In some of the records with their kids, some of them are listed as mulatto, and some of them are listed as black. And here they are. So this is an 1880 census and a 1900. As you can see on the one that's in 1880, this was in the Liberty Township. Back then they didn't have cities, so they had townships. Most of the girls are listed as mulatto, and then when you look in 1900, they changed Eliza Jane from mulatto to black, and then their sons are listed as black. So this is a picture of George Manuel and Patti K. Scotton, and they were granddaddy's parents. And these are just this is the family tree, and on the side is listed all of the Scotton siblings. Until I did this, I did not realize there were 13 of them. I always thought it was just 11, but it actually was 13. They had two brothers that died at birth. This is a picture of the Scotton siblings. So if you start on the back row, that is Charles Mandel Scotton. Beside him is Leroy. Then there's Willie, and then there's Uncle Ralph on the end. The middle row are the girls, and it is Aunt Maud Scotton Foster, Picola Scotton Hedden, and Maggie Scotton Jones. And then the bottom row is Marvin Scotton, Lavelle Scotton, Norman Scotton, and Frank Scotton. The two kids that passed was Dewey Scotton and Robert Scotton. One was born in 1907 and one was born in 1916. And it's just a picture of the Scotton brothers lined up and the Scotton sisters lined up. This one was another picture that I found. I don't know who the singing group that's Granddad over here on the left. I don't know what the name of the singing group was. It was just one of the pictures that came up. The picture on the right is from left to right is Uncle James and Aunt Maggie. Granddaddy's in the middle. His sister Maud is beside him, and her husband Clarence Foster is on the end. Do any of y'all remember any of them? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Y'all know Maud used to do hair.
Okay. And Uncle James was the
Uncle James had the snow
cone.
The snow cone truck.
Yeah.
George Manuel was born January 14, 1888 in Randolph County, North Carolina, to Taylor 37 and Eliza Jane 34. Patti K. was born in 1887 to Charles 41 and Margaret Austin 29. George Manuel married Patti K. September. Well, I'll restart that over. I'm sorry. George Manuel married Patti K. September 15, 1905 in Chatham County. They had 13 children, 10 sons and 3 daughters. 2 of their sons died at birth, Robert in 1907 and Dewey in 1916. 7 of the 8 living sons and 1 of the 3 daughters were ministers. George was a brick mason and a deacon in the church. She attended and was a big part of the church community. Patti K. was also known as a healer. There are several articles in different magazines and newspapers about how Patti K. healed people that were blind and deaf. She was so well known in the church community that white people would bring their children and family members to her to heal. She was known as Sister Patti. She had a special room in her home that she healed people by just a touch of hands and prayers. there would be so many people at her home that was called the Line of Glory as they wrapped around the house. It is said that in 1940, at the General Assembly, she healed many with the messages she delivered. She made and distributed anointed handkerchiefs to many who were sick. Patti Kay died September 6, 1947 at the age of 60. George Manuel married Mary Bill Kirby, January 5, 1948 at the age of 59. George Manuel died January 30, 1963 in High Point, North Carolina at the age of 75.
This is a picture of Patti Kay Scotton, who was Granddaddy's mother. The picture on the left is actually a picture that was taken in a magazine where she is healing white people. The significance of that is, back in the early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, people were segregated, but white people believed in her healing so much that they brought their children and their family members to her so she could heal them. And she could heal them by the touch of her hand and by the prayers that she prayed. This article, this is one of the articles, and it is just stating that the young lady that wrote it said that she was really sick. Her parents took her, that Sister Patti put her in her special room. She prayed for her, and it took her fever away. There were several articles that said literally that people witnessed where there were people that were blind, and Patti Kay touched them and they could see. That there were people that were deaf, and Patti Kay touched them and prayed for them and they could hear. These are pictures of George Manuel Scotton. He was also a deacon in the church, so you can see where Granddaddy got his sharp dressing from. As you can see, George Manuel dressed too. Okay. So now we are to Charles and Elizabeth Scotton. We have Charles Manuel Scotton Jr., Charlene Arlette Scotton, and Marlene Yvonne Scotton. And the pictures that are right here at the bottom of Mama, Uncle Charles, and Aunt Marlene were their high school picture, their high school senior pictures. And this is just something from the family tree through Ancestry.com that was just letting you know how they were set up.
Charles Manuel Sr. was born March 4, 1922 in Liberty, North Carolina to George Manuel, 34, and Patti Kay, 35. Elizabeth Johnson was born May 17, 1924 in South Carolina to Leroy, 20, and Arlene Johnson, 19. Charles Manuel Sr. was 19 when he married Elizabeth, February 21, 1942 in Chesterfield, South Carolina. They had 3 children. We also acknowledge that Charles Manuel Sr. had 2 other daughters, Carla and Stephanie Boulware. Charles Manuel worked at AJM OEN in Washington, District of Columbia in June 1942 when he was registered for the draft. Charles Manuel was a private who served in World War II, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Charles Manuel Sr. was a skilled brick and stone mason who also worked as a tile settler. He had his own construction company called Big C Enterprises. Charles Manuel Scotton Sr. was also known as Big C by many. He built 2 of his homes, one on Harrison Street and one on Futrell Drive in High Point, North Carolina. Reverend Charles Manuel Scotton Sr. pastored churches at Durham, Robbins, Kingston, High Point, and Bragtown, North Carolina. Charles Manuel Sr. was the first African American to run for mayor of High Point, North Carolina.
This is Granddaddy's World War II draft card. And as you can see, this handsome man on the other side. And when he signed up for the draft, he was 20 years old. And at the time, he was working in Washington, D.C. Grandma was in North Carolina, but Granddaddy was there in D.C. because he was working at the time. These are some more wonderful pictures of our handsome grandfather. And father for some. This is the poster of Granddaddy when he ran for mayor of High Point. As you can see, where Diane at?
Right here.
Diane, what was the slogan?
For your fair share, vote Charles M. Scotton for mayor.
There you go.
2014 was a member of a singing group, Sons of Harmony, which is made up of his brothers and nephews. Elizabeth was a housewife and very active in the church community. She would often read Charles Manuel's sermons beforehand to see if he missed something or needed to add, or if blah, blah, blah. She would often read Charles Manuel's sermons beforehand to see if he missed something or needed to add something. That's what I'm saying.
You're supposed to do something. My bad.
Alright. She was his sounding board. She taught Sunday school to the younger children in church. Elizabeth was a foster mother for many years, even keeping families of up to 3 siblings at a time, so they would not be separated. Elizabeth died May 7, 1981 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. She was 57. She was married to Charles Manuel for 39 years. Charles Manuel Sr. married Ruth Parsons. Charles Manuel Sr. died May 1887 in High Point, North Carolina at the age of 65.
So this is a picture of Granddaddy and his brothers and his nephews. And this was their singing group. They were the Sons of Harmony. Granddaddy's in the very back. I don't know who everybody is. I know Granddaddy's in the back. Uncle Frank is in front of Granddaddy. I don't know who's in front of Uncle Frank. Okay, Mama said Uncle Lovell in front of Uncle Frank. Who's that? Ed Jones? Ed Jones. And then Bobby Head is behind him, and I don't know who's the other person. Frank, who the other person? Okay.
But it has to be one.
Yeah. It has to be a brother or nephew, because that's who made up the group. Okay, moving on. Charles and Elizabeth Scotton's family tree. And so, as you can see, we started off with George and Anna in the 1800s. And Elizabeth Jane's mom. We moved down to Taylor and Elizabeth and Eliza Jane. Then we go to George, Manuel, Patti Kay, Charles, Manuel, Elizabeth, and then their 3 children. These are just some pictures that I found of Granddaddy and Grandma back in the day. So the one on the left, Granddaddy and Grandma were teenagers at the time. This is another one of Grandma and Granddaddy. The one on the right was taken at Fields of the Woods. And I think that is the Lathan that is hanging onto Granddaddy's hand. This one is of Granddaddy and Grandma in 1964. And both of the views, they are standing at their house that was on Harrison Street. And Granddaddy built that house.
Remember that?
That's a house that had all of the fruit trees. So they had apple trees and pear trees and plum trees. We as children used to climb the trees. We as children used to fall out the trees. We as children used to climb the trees when the dog got loose. Granddaddy had a German Shepherd named Ranger that was, yeah, when he got loose, you had to head for a tree or you were gone. So there's a picture of Granddaddy and Grandmama. This was at Mama's wedding.
That's how I'm looking right now.
Yep. And then the other picture is Grandma and I don't know where they were. It just said it was 1973. They were sharp wherever they were. I don't know. They could probably going to church, coming home from church. Yeah, probably. Yeah. This is Grandma in the middle, and it's Grandma and Uncle Charles, and then Grandma with Aunt Marlene and Mama.
Aww.
What they cute?
She looking like, why I got twins?
Yeah, she looking like I'm tired and I need a break. And then of course Big C all clean. The black and white says it was December 1963. I don't know if he was going in the velvet jacket and the other one. And then this one was just some pictures. So I did the pictures that Isaiah drew their pictures from, so you could see what he drew from. The one with Grandma, Isaiah, for those that don't know, whenever he draws a picture, he draws what he sees. So for Grandma, as you can see, Uncle Charles was right up here. So So he had to not draw Uncle Charles right here. So Grandma got a little thing going on right here. And then it's Uncle Charles. Uncle Charles is a baby. He was so cute. And you look just like him.
I look like Carla.
Don't it look just like Carla? And then we have Mama over here in her cap and gown. And then she's at Fields of the Woods. And then we have Aunt Marlene. And it's a picture of Aunt Marlene and Uncle Jack and Aunt Marlene's cap and gown picture. Yeah, Uncle Jack, it was clean. Okay, so there were 8 generations of Charles Scotton, his ancestors. His great-grandparents was first generation, grandparents second generation, parents third. Charles Manuel would be the 4th generation, his descendants. And as I said before, there are 4 living generations. His children are the 5th generation. There were 5 children. His grandchildren are the 6th generation. There are 12 of us. The great-grandchildren are the 7th generation. There are 21. And the great-great-grandchildren are the 8th generation. And there are 15 of them.
They all belong to the lady.
And they all belong to the most of the children belong to the night clan over there.
I got some kids.
So these, the rest of the, most of these pictures are just their pictures. I was trying to find pictures of family so y'all could see. So don't kill me because a lot of them I found like on Facebook or somewhere like that.
Where you going? Where you creeping at, Aunt Faye?
And it actually is just a family reunion picture. Tony, I could only find one. Which one to go? In the corner. I can only find one picture of you, so I put 3 in because I can only find one. So for
In a telephone booth.
in a telephone booth. So for these, I did the children.
Gonna call somebody.
And then their children started from the oldest child, so that would be Tony. Then there would be Ricky, so this is Ricky and Ricky's family that I can find beautiful pictures of. And this is Carla, her beautiful family that I can find pictures of.
Hey, Captain.
Then there's Charlene and Julius Knight.
Yep, Daddy got some.
My daddy got some good hair. Yeah, my daddy got some good hair. So their oldest children, it is Marnita, so it's me and Christopher. Then it's me and my clan over here. Yeah. So my oldest is Lakeisha.
Lakeisha.
Then there is Jay. Then there was Jasmine. Then there is our grandson Isaiah. The artist. Then we move on to Delathan and his family. Here the clan, the grandbabies on one side, the children on the other side.
Yeah.
We have Delathian.
Yes.
Okay, you have to help me with this. Delathian and his boys. We have Shapara, her family.
That's the money
We
couple.
have Natavia, her family.
Hey, Kasten.
Hey, Keiston. We got the biggest tribe. Delathian and all the children. We have Kennedy. And Isaiah drew the picture of Kennedy in the middle.
All right, Kennedy. Simone.
Then we move on to Marlene and Thomas Moore. We have Tommy and Patricia Moore. The head of the Moore family. We got Thomas and Carla. Don't kill me, Hal. You found them on Facebook. I'm sorry. Yes, we got Y'all told me Renee, right?
Yes,
Okay, so I got I remember.
Yeah,
You know, I
Renee.
keep forgetting stuff. We got more.
Aww.
We got Matthew.
You better put me in every picture.
Oh.
Hey,
We got
Terry.
Terry. And we got Terry, that's the only picture I can find of you, so don't get me, but you look just like it.
Yeah.
Looking just like your
Yeah,
daddy.
he cool. He
Yeah,
cool.
he is handsome. We got Marlon and Marlon in 6th grade. Marlon, you know what's so cute? Then we have Stephanie,
Stephanie looking out there.
looking like Marlene.
Yes.
We got Taylor.
Look at Taylor.
Taylor, like I'm tired of taking pictures with my mama. We got Carla. And her daughter Courtney.
Okay.
And then we have a reference page that tells you that I got this information from a book I got from Aunt Faye. I got some personal information from Mama about the churches where Granddad had churches and different things. I got stuff from Ancestry.com. And I got some information from Kathy Bing, Scotton Bing, which was Uncle Marvin's daughter, from the Scotton United Facebook page. And then the only other thing on here is y'all pictures came from Facebook if I didn't already have pictures of it. That concludes our presentation.
To the History Channel.